marching on the freedom line. Ain't gonna let nobody, can't let them turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody, well, I just keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on the freedom line.
And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual.
Good afternoon. My name is Elaine Johnson. I am a member of the Executive Committee of the local branch of the NAACP. I am so grateful to be here with you all this afternoon to celebrate the 2021 Martin Luther King March for the Dream program and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I want to start out by giving a shout out to the Santa Cruz NAACP branch and everyone who has taken the time to put together this event. Due to the restrictions of COVID-19, we are not able to meet in person, but through the grace, commitment, and vision of the NAACP, we still wanted to continue with the tradition of celebrating Martin Luther King Day with you all here in Santa Cruz County and beyond. Thank you to our tech team and everyone who has made this celebration possible. This morning in my prayer and meditation, I was led to a writing of President Barack Obama. And he said, "We're in the middle of a tough chapter for our country. But Martin Luther King Day should serve as a reminder that we have been through tough times before and emerged from them stronger. But only because we never stopped believing in our democracy, only because we never stopped believing in our democracy, only because we never stopped working to perfect it, and only because even in the face of intimidation, discrimination, and unimaginable suffering, we never stopped dreaming of a better day and never stopped doing the long, hard, essential work of ushering it in. Though we may not be in person, we gather in our homes. We hold hands with our partners and our children and our loved ones. We hold our family and our friends in our hearts this day as we celebrate the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. I give thanks again to NAACP. We have an amazing lineup of community leaders who said yes to hearing the call today to be of service. I know each of them personally, and I know that we are in for a great celebration. So I thank you all for being here and joining us. And with that, I would like to invite Rabbi Paula Marcus from Temple Bethel to bring us the invocation.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water, we shall not be moved. That's taken from Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 8. Hebrew prophets, and Dr. King was a modern day prophet. In Jewish tradition, the New Year of the Trees is coming at the end of this month. And I think we're pretty lucky as Jews, we get a couple of New Years here. And so we're looking forward to that. You know, trees are strong. Trees are rooted down into the earth. And there's a network of roots that connect underground. And they persist. They grow, they connect, they nourish. Trees tell the truth. When there's a drought, trees look dried out. The leaves turn green when their parched systems are watered once again. And trees don't turn away from each other. Trees don't turn away from each other. Forests withstand fires, as we well know, congested air, logging, and trees stick together. They grow once again. They sprout new leaves. They bear fruit. Dr. King said, "Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree." Plant for generations to come. That's what he did. I had the opportunity a summer ago to be in Montgomery, Alabama at his parsonage in Dexter. And we went into the room where he sat at his kitchen table and prayed when he felt like he was running out of energy and strength. it was considered this night where he had to reach out to God, reach out to the divine for some support and sustenance. And on the table, they keep a beautiful bouquet of these plastic red flowers, which he sent to his wife because he would send her flowers, real flowers. But this time he wasn't sure if he would be back again. And he wanted these flowers, these plastic flowers, to outlast his life. And we sat there and we looked at these flowers and we cried because we knew that Dr. King never gave up. We knew that he still believed in the future. Let us be, oh holy God, let us be like Dr. King. In the midst of our chaos, let us continue to plant trees. Holy source of life, let us be like trees, witnessing what is all around us, standing tall with our branches outstretched. And together may our roots nourish all of us, this beloved community. Let us shade all who need protection and care, and let us feed and nourish ourselves and all those yet to be born, planting apple trees for the future. Just like a tree planted by the waters, we shall not be moved. Amen.
Good afternoon. Our next speaker is Senator John Leard, State Senator for Senate District 17.
Hello, this is Senator John Laird. Very happy to be with you today at the March for the Dream. And I just want to say that it's hard to believe that it was a year ago that we all could be together, that we were marching, ending up at Loudon Nelson Center doing exactly this event. That day, I went on and marched in Monterey County and went to the MLK event that night in San Luis Obispo. And I really look forward to the time that we can be together again doing this. But since that time, the world has changed. The pandemic has exposed dramatic inequities in healthcare and has fallen differently in how kids go remotely to school, in people that have gotten infected and sick and died from COVID. It is all based increasingly on economic differences and a divide, and it has put in front of us an agenda for what we have to do in terms of justice, in sort of moving out with our commitment from the March for the Dream. Additionally, and obviously, the issue of unequal law enforcement and injustices emerged out of Minneapolis and then Louisville and Atlanta and other places in this country, including my hometown of Vallejo, California. And it has just redoubled our need to make sure that Black lives do matter, that there is justice in a law enforcement system and in services that really affect us all. And so I know that today is a time to celebrate the dream that Martin Luther King had, but it is a dream that has to be renewed always. And the events of the last year have given us much more of an agenda toward equality in education, equality in healthcare, equality in law enforcement, equality and equal representation in our public institutions. And I know I stand with you in doing that. And I just encourage everybody to renew their commitment. There will be a time that we can do this together, that we won't be fighting for the dream or justice or reconciliation or reparations through Zooms, but in person, in meetings, in rallies, in events, in church services across our city and our county and our state. So just thanks for letting me be here today. And I really look forward to working together with you for more just Santa Cruz County, more just state of California, and more just United States. Good luck. Best wishes for a successful event.
Thank you, Senator Laird. And thank you, Rabbi Paula, for grounding us in prayer this morning. And it is my honor and a privilege at this time to introduce our MC for today, Dr. Kobe Akinade.
Thank you, Elaine. We're very thankful to be able to have our next speaker, the newly elected Vice Mayor, Sonia Brunner, Vice Mayor of Santa Cruz.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Just last year, I was the DJ of this annual celebration as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all that his legacy means to our community here in Santa Cruz and the world. Here we are right before a presidential inauguration. We've just had a year physically divided because of the COVID-19 pandemic, racial injustices, and the many disruptions that have been part of our lived experience since last year. This year, as newly elected City Council member and Vice Mayor of Santa Cruz, I am so honored to be one of the invited speakers for this virtual event. And despite the COVID-19 pandemic, we will shine a bright light on Dr. King's legacy and on his past and present importance in the strive for social health and justice for all. Today, celebrating Dr. King, I will come straight to the themes of justice, reconciliation, and reparations in our community and our society at large that reverberate from Dr. King's speeches to this very present. His message of putting aside our differences, working together, and of peacefully pushing for positive change has never been more important than it is today. Within its historical context, this COVID-19 pandemic is not only a health challenge of a century, but it also illuminates the social, economic, and political histories of our society, as well as the systemic racism that has shaped much of our past and present. The acute and disproportionate COVID-19 death rate we read about among African Americans, Latinos, and Native Americans are the consequences of past racism leading to social and ethnic inequities, which appear today as lack of access to a social healthcare system for all, and in general as a lack of just and equitable distributions of income and wealth in our society. So that reparations for the horrendous past injustices of slavery and those for the robbing of Native American lands and cultures are much considered today. To better address systemic racism and the historical injustices in the present, we can begin by looking for guidance to some of Dr. King's ideas and speeches that are so valid for today, especially in their appeal to ways, means, and action towards greater social and political justice in our society now, as well as towards the physical and emotional healing and reconciliation with healthcare and social equity for all of our citizens. Dr. King authored many books, speeches, sermons, and writings that are inspirational and timeless. In his book, Strength to Love, he spoke of a tough mind and a tender heart, on being a good neighbor, on loving your enemies, antidotes for fear, pilgrimage to nonviolence. And in his speech titled, Where Do We Go From Here?, Dr. King reflected on the concepts of power and love, writing that power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love. In his last book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? He lays out his thoughts, plans, and dreams for our nation's future, including the need for higher wages, better jobs, decent housing, and quality education. With a universe of message of hope that continues to resonate, Dr. King demanded an end to global suffering for poor people. On this day in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I remind you of his words and principles to inspire you to serve, not just today, but whenever you are able. Compassion is the way through. Listen to the words. I encourage you to have conversations with each other and reflect on them. Think about where we are, where we've come from, and all the possibilities before us. And then decide how you can contribute to the betterment of our communities and our society. I hope that regardless of the seeming chaos that surrounds us, there is hope in a future that is built on the best of what we as humanity can be with each other. Humanity is measured by how we come together for greater purposes. And although we cannot come together in person this year to honor Dr. King and continue the tradition, I encourage you to spread acts of kindness and service to others now more than ever. Let us recognize that it will take the coming together of all our ethnic and social groups, because our strength lies in our very multiplicity and in our cooperation to achieve progress. In the words of Dr. King, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. As one of the council members of the city of Santa Cruz, I will dedicate myself to serving this community in its progress forward towards greater social determinants of health. May we all continue doing good together by honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in our actions. Thank you to our Santa Cruz NAACP and Brenda Griffin, and to every single person that made today's a virtual event possible, and to the Santa Cruz County Black Coalition for Racial Justice and Equity, and all the beautiful humans that step in Dr. King's spirit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia, for reminding us of those words that Dr. King shared with us. And thank you also for your steadfast dedication in fostering equity in Santa Cruz County. United Way has been a pillar and a bright, shining light across this country. So at this time, I would like to introduce Keisha Browder, Executive Director of the United Way of Santa Cruz County.
I know that we wish we could gather together in downtown Santa Cruz like we're used to, but it is truly a pleasure to gather virtually with the same spirit and the same enthusiasm that we share each year on this incredible day. As we recognize such an extraordinary leader such as Dr. King, my hope is that we will continue to keep our eyes on the North Star. And that is truly to create a nation that has justice for all. This year's theme, justice, reconciliation, and reparations, hits home for us here in Santa Cruz County. We've shown in 2020 our strength as a Black community here in Santa Cruz County. We amplified our voice. We came together to truly hold our community to its values and to what it says as a progressive community. I'm proud to join the NAACP and the Santa Cruz County Black Coalition for Justice and Racial Equity because it gives us an opportunity to truly work together and have our voices heard. This year, United Way of Santa Cruz County is proud to partner with the Black Health Matters Initiative that includes the NAACP as we work together to collect the data and understand the quality of life for Blacks in Santa Cruz County. My hope is that each of you, the Black residents here in Santa Cruz County, that you will participate in our focus groups, COVID mindful focus groups, but that this is an opportunity for our voices to be heard. We want to know the social determinants of health. We want to learn about what that looks like here in Santa Cruz County. And so for the next 3 months, we will be working with you to capture your voice and to make your voices heard. Through the Black Health Matters Initiative and through the Santa Cruz County Black Coalition for Racial Justice and Equity, we have an opportunity to really work side by side with our county supervisors in making sure that racism no longer remains a public health crisis. That partnership there will need reconciliation, racial reconciliation, having our community face some truths about itself. That while we have great intentions, we have to recognize that those intentions weren't always met. So let's recalibrate, let's redesign, let's reconcile, and let's reimagine a Santa Cruz County that is truly a county that is healthy, thriving, and safe for all beings. So again, I thank you for being here today. I'm celebrating and recognizing such an amazing leader such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And let's continue to stand together as we create a healthy, thriving, and safe Santa Cruz County for all beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Keisha. Our next presenter is someone who's been working hard to foster equity in Santa Cruz County. You've seen him in different media avenues as he has expressed his support for Black Lives Matter. At this time, I would like to introduce live our Chief of Police, Chief Andy Mills of Santa Cruz County Police Department.
Well, happy Martin Luther King Day. It's such an honor to be here and to spend some time, as we have for the last several years, with the community and thinking about the great things that Martin Luther King was able to push for in terms of equity and justice. And Brenda, I just really want to tip my hat to you and the NAACP for shouldering this this event and pushing it forward in the midst of a pandemic. I just can't thank you enough. And all of Santa Cruz PD salute you and the major effort that you undertook. You know, as I thought about what to say today in communicating with our community, and it dawns on me that this year we saw great injustice, but as a result of it, hopefully there will be more justice. Because of the murder of George Floyd and the massive protests that people expressed how much Black Lives Matter, it compelled many police departments, including ours, to sit at the table with people and discuss and listen and talk and grapple with and understand these complex issues so that we can move forward and change policies that change behavior and hopefully in the long run changes culture. If there's one thing that needs to take place nationwide, not just here in Santa Cruz, but in policing nationwide, and that is a change of culture where we understand completely that every person must be treated completely equal. And that is not occurring right now. But I am committed to continuing to move forward with you to help us understand even more and help us to determine the best avenues to move forward to create a more just society for all people, but especially the hurting community right now, our Black community. And I just want to make sure that even though we accomplished a lot this year, as you well know, we've got 24 policies changed and altered here in our department and in our city, approved by City Council, and who is 100% supportive. But let's not stop here. Let's find a way to move forward, to increase, to expand, and to make it portable so other police departments and sheriff's offices and state agencies can pick up what has already begun here in Santa Cruz and help it promulgate throughout all of society. You know, this is a year of great potential turmoil, but also it gives me, I'm just completely inspired. I'm completely inspired because we have the opportunity and the timing is right for us to really think through these issues and create positive change for everybody. So again, thank you for inviting me to be part of this. It's an honor to speak with the community regarding these matters, and we look forward to working together for the upcoming year and making the changes that we can to make Santa Cruz the most just community that we possibly can. Thank you so much.
Many of us as young people, as students, were deeply inspired. We started attending nonviolent workshops where we studied the way of peace, the way of love, the way of nonviolence. And you saw these men putting on their gas masks. They came toward us, beating us with nightsticks, trampling us with horses, and releasing the tear gas. Was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick. My legs went from under me. I thought I saw death. I thought I was going to die.
Can I give up? Can I give in, become bitter or hostile?
John Lewis was a pioneer, someone who fought for civil rights. And as we think about his life and what he did for us, we all have an opportunity to walk in the same spirit as John Lewis. And I personally am thankful for the contributions that he made to our country. The next person that I want to introduce is Peter Klotz Chamberlain, who is the board secretary for the Resource Center for Nonviolence in Santa Cruz.
Thank you, Brenda, and everyone who has organized through the NAACP in Santa Cruz County. I learned from you and your experiences living in this community. The pressure has been relentless these past days and many years. I draw strength and direction from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and begin with some of his words. For the good of America, it is necessary to refute the idea that the dominant ideology in our country, even today, is freedom and equality, while racism is just an occasional departure from the norm on the part of a few bigoted extremists. A nation that would keep people in slavery for 244 years will make them things. It will exploit them and poor people economically. And it will have to have foreign investments, and it will have to use its military might to protect them. All of these things are tied together. We must honestly face the fact that the movement must address itself to the question of restructuring the whole of American society. We must ask, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you begin to ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. In other words, your whole structure must be changed. A true revolution of values will cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our past and present policies. Thank you, Dr. King. In Santa Cruz, we are good at promoting progressive values, equality, equity, freedom, justice, and many more. But what does it mean to make a revolution of these values? I submit that Dr. King's commitment to nonviolence calls us to something deeper than platforms for change. The nonviolent method begins with a most courageous act, my own self-reckoning. How do I cooperate with oppression? Your whole structure means my whole structure. How am I connected to this nation's evils? How am I racist? What can I learn from others impacted by my privilege, impacted by the institutions and policies I go along with? What can I do to stop cooperating? How can I organize in my community to change institutional structures I am part of? Ibram X. Kendi takes the self-critical act of courage even deeper than Dr. King in his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. If you haven't, I encourage you to read it and discuss it with others. Says Kendi, every policy in every institution, in every community, is producing or sustaining either racial equity or inequity between racial groups. There's no such thing as race-neutral or non-racist policy. And another, the heartbeat of racism is denial. The heartbeat of anti-racism is confession. Personal and institutional confession instead of self-justification. What about us in Santa Cruz County? First, we have a progressive establishment that is mostly white, with 5 white men on the County Board of Supervisors. Well-intentioned progressive coalitions still ask BIPOC communities to join them, to be included, to diversify a political status quo. Let us stop and support new coalitions led by communities of color. A multiracial movement for democracy is alive in Georgia and across the land, and let's do it here. Second, listen and learn and unlearn. The Resource Center for Nonviolence and Racial Equity Trainers Network offer anti-racism book circles and trainings. This spring, RCNV will convene BIPOC-identified groups and white body groups. Contact RCNV to dig into your own self-reckoning. Third, the NAACP Santa Cruz County branch moved the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors to declare racism a public health crisis. Just as we shelter in place, wear masks, change everyday behavior to address the COVID-19 public health crisis, we need to change everyday behavior to address the racism public health crisis in our county. Fourth, we need to hold the county and all institutions accountable to make impactful anti-racist changes. Consider the institutions you are part of. What policies, practices, and programs have racist impacts? If you don't know, ask people of color. And remember, there is no such thing as a race-neutral or non-racist policy. And I suggest nonviolent practice has more to guide us. Remember, the successful Montgomery bus boycott was a nonviolent action campaign. What if we waged nonviolent anti-racism campaigns within our agencies, schools, nonprofits, businesses? A campaign is not a one-off protest or appeal. A campaign is a variety of actions that educate and mobilize people in the situation, engage decision makers, build support and power over time, and win achievable goals. A campaign does not have to be loud, it has to be firm. The most important thing nonviolence adds to conventional methods is focus on the people involved. Meet in person with institution leaders. Bring those most impacted face to face with leaders. Use creative acts that dramatize, educate, and express the power of people. Perhaps an act of non-cooperation within the institution, or theater, art, or music that persuade in emotional or spiritual ways. A commitment to nonviolence means to wage a struggle knowing we will all be working together after the struggle wins. It's a commitment to reconciliation and accountability. To end racism, we have to struggle in every agency, every business, nonprofit, and political group in Santa Cruz County. To end racism, our whole structures, personal and political, cultural and economic, our whole structures must be changed.
hero. I see your light in the dark, smile in my face when we all know it's hard. There's no way to ever pay you back. Bless your heart, know I love you for that. Honest and selfless, I don't know if this helps it, but good job. You're doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, 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 yeah. You're doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, 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 yeah. 6 in the morning, and soon as you walk through that door, everyone needs you again. The world's out of order. It's not as sound when you're not around. All day on your feet, harder. Keep that energy. I know when it feels like the end of the road, you don't let go. You just press forward. You're the engine that makes all things go. Always in disguise, my hero. I see your light in the dark. Smile in my face when we all know it's hard. There's no way to ever pay you back. Bless your heart, know I love you for that. Honest and selfless, I don't know if this helps it, but good job. You're doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, matter, matter. Yeah, it's a good job. Doing a good job, a good job. You're doing a good job, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, matter, matter. The mothers, the fathers, the teachers that reach us, strangers and friends that show up in the end. From the bottom to the top, the listeners that hear us, this is for you. You make me fearless. Oh, don't get too down. The world needs you now. Know that you matter, 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 yeah. No, no, no. Thank you.
To all of our essential workers, we honor you. Santa Cruz County and the University of California at Santa Cruz has been blessed to have a dynamic historian, Dr. David Anthony, Associate Professor of History at the University of California, Santa Cruz.
Good afternoon. I want to take us back to the beginning of the hour because at that time something fundamental happened. And if that means that you need to call me a fundamentalist for a moment, you may. We heard an extract from the I Have a Dream speech. It is a sermon that pivots around the power of the word, especially using devices such as repetition and grounding in the scriptural text. And one of the greatest examples, the most evocative images of that is the brief phrase, the 4-word phrase, now is the time. That manifests the prophetic voice. I want to thank Rabbi Paula Marcus for linking her song with the prophet Jeremiah. So vital was his prophetic voice that it became a noun for an injunction, an exhortation to act, to seek redemption, atonement, and realignment of the cosmic forces of good over evil at the peril of divine judgment were this not to have happened. A Jeremiah 7:8. Will you steal and murder? Is this house become a den of robbers? It is up to us, we, the people, to ensure that that not be true. Prophet Jeremiah sounds the clarion call to action. We must take the next steps to ensure that the needs of the people be safeguarded and protected from the gullible, the misled, the desperate, the befuddled, and the confused, as well as racists, fascists, and domestic terrorists. It is time to answer that call. Now is the time. Michael Eric Dyson reminds us of the radical core of the vision and dream of Dr. King. Don't misunderstand the central message of the I Have a Dream speech. The dream also struggles against the enduring nightmare. We saw some of what that nightmare looked like in the hateful storming of the Capitol. We will not stand for that. Democracy is too fragile. We must defend it. We fought for it in the past and continue to do so now. Now is the time. Keeanga-Yamahtta Taylor, in 50 years since Martin Luther King, examines Martin Luther King's turn towards a radical critique of capitalism before his life was cut short by a brutal assassination. In a posthumously published essay, Dr. King pointed out that the Black Revolution had gone beyond the rights of Negroes. The struggle, he said, is forcing America to face all of its interrelated flaws: racism, poverty, materialism, and militarism. It is exposing the evils that are rooted deeply in the whole structure of our society. It reveals systemic rather than superficial flaws and suggests that the radical reconstruction of society itself is the real issue to be faced. In a New Yorker review of Alicia Garza's book, The Purpose of Power, Yamahtta Taylor also addresses the continuity of struggle, exemplified by Black Lives Matter, the movement for Black lives. Yamahtta Taylor emphasizes the tenacity, relevance, creativity, and agency of the movement, even as it critiques some of the shortcomings of earlier movement periods. It is vital to emphasize that this is about the long haul, that the struggle being waged manifests itself in generations of resistance. We must be inclusive, intersectional, and clear about our objectives. The movement is not stuck in the past, not a fly in amber. It regenerates and transforms, reflecting the needs of the moment. Black Lives Matter. The movement is about the liberation of all people. Never forget that. Now is the time. Let us not wait for funerals to state that. We lost many this murderous year of 2020, this annus horribilis, but we are also inspired by their stalwart example. When heroes and sheroes die, if we are not vigilant and resolute, their legacies may be shaped in ways that distort, ways other than they had intended. Do not permit that. We must control our narrative. Peace, love, and people's democracy, justice, reconciliation, and reparation. Santa Cruz and the world, now is the time.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. The next two people that I want to introduce are two people who have been working hard to create the kind of community that Dr. King envisioned, and a community that so many of us have longed for. Reverend Deborah Johnson, the founding minister and president of Inner Light Ministries, and after Reverend Deborah Johnson, we'll hear from Brenda Griffin, the president of the NAACP of Santa Cruz County.
Greetings, everyone. And I'm going to ask everybody to just take a breath. We've been hearing such rich things, and we're at a point in time in a history where emotions are running so high. This is just an extraordinary moment for so many reasons. I don't have to tell you what the current events are now in early or mid now, January 2021. But I would like to speak a moment about what is required of us in this moment. You'll hear me say often that we have to recalibrate, to recalibrate. When you recalibrate, you synchronize, you get into alignment. Everything is energy. We are energetic fields. We aren't just human beings, that we are spiritual beings. We are incarnation. Something is in the flesh, something is in the body. And right now, this battle for the soul of America, as King would call it, is an energetic battle. It's how high will we go? Protest? Yes. Legislate? Yes. We have to do all of that. But more than anything, where we exist, where we dwell at a deep soul level is going to make the difference. We need to raise our voices in the streets, yes, but we also have to lift our voices. Our voices, our power chakra center in the throat is not just a matter of volume, it's a matter of frequency. So what I'm saying, it's a matter of frequency. I think it's perhaps best captured in what we consider to be the Black, or sometimes referred to as the Negro National Anthem. It is a call. It was originally a poem by James Weldon Johnson, one of the famous African-American poets and writers of the last century. It's lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. See, it speaks to it speaks to an altitude. That every voice, lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise. Rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. The lifting the altitude of our consciousness. Michelle Obama would say, when they go low, we go high. Resounding loud. Nothing meek about it. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. And sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. It is incumbent upon us at a moment like this to recalibrate. You can be mad, but pain pushes until vision pulls. We can be hurt, but you cannot live in despair. We can be knocked down, but you got to get yourself back up. When I was a kid, and we were in the nuclear race and war with Russia, we'd have to get down underneath the tables and hide because the bombs were going to fall from the sky. Well, you know what? The new tactic is not bombs from the sky. The new tactic is tear ourselves apart from the inside. It's the divisiveness. It's the mistrust, the distrust that's eventually going to bring down this democracy if we don't stand up and fight for it. But here's an interesting thing. When you're fighting for something, there's a certain way you got to do it. A democracy ultimately is a relationship. It's not just about institution or laws. It is a relationship. And we have seen that over the past 4 or 5 years. That like any relationship, it's only as good as the people in it treat each other. It's only as good as the people in it respect the rules of engagement that they have agreed to, honor the relationship that they have committed to. If you don't do that, it's not going to make any difference. So here we are now at a point of so much fracture and fragmentation. But if we want to fight for the democracy, we can't just fight the people in it. We can't just fight the people in it. If you want to fight for your marriage, you want to fight for your kids, you want to fight for your church, you want to fight for your school, you can't just fight the people in your family. In the school, there's a place of oneness of consciousness that you have to get to. And I want to say this now specifically to my white brothers and sisters as our allies. Take a breath. We need you. We need you. But we don't need you to denounce your whiteness now, particularly not with such a rise in white supremacy. We need you to stand up, own it, all of the privileges that it comes with, and to stand up against the white supremacists. Just take a breath. Take a breath. We are seeing right now what's happening with the GOP, how oppression hurts the oppressors. Oppression hurts the oppressors, not just the oppressed. It is the silence and it is the complicity that leads to the collusion that allows the supremacy to keep reigning. The racism isn't just about discrimination against Black folk. It's not just that. The discrimination is just a tool of supremacy. We must tackle the supremacy. If we were to look at what's happening now in our government, the Democrats don't just want Republicans to denounce their Republicanness and come over here and be allies to the Democrats. What they want is the Republicans to stand up to the Republicans and to tell the truth. It's the complicity, it's the lies. We have been fed lies of misinformation and disinformation in regards to our race relations. The way that we keep saying that everything is fine and that everything is just, and there really is liberation and equality for all. The way that we hear so many of our liberal and progressive allies talk, is it no. That's like standing up and saying that the election was stolen. We need to quit with the lies. Let's tell the truth. And we are asking you, stand up to your brothers, to your sisters, to the folks that you used to live with, to the congregations that you used to be with. Stand up. And even right now, if you say no more, then this election is not stolen. We need you. We need you at this moment in time. It's one thing to just push against the pain, but we have to put forth the vision of this new day. We can't move to healing unless we're telling the truth about what's going on. And we need you to tell the truth. King said in the final analysis, it's not the rancor of all of our enemies that makes a difference. It's the silence of our friends. And there comes a point in which the silence is betrayal. Don't just watch this stuff going down and wonder what's going to happen. The fate is in our hands. Let us lift our voices till earth and heaven reign. Recalibrate your consciousness, not just the volume of your tone. Peace and blessings. And may the dream of King long live within the hearts of each and every one of us. Peace and blessings to you.
Wow. Good afternoon, everyone. I am just grateful for everyone involved in putting together this program. Thank you so much to our MC, Elaine Johnson. Thank you so much. And folks, look for Elaine in our community as she goes forth representing the NAACP. To the folks in the background, you have my heart. Thank you so much for making our virtual march a success. Thank you to our community for just being with us this afternoon. Thank you to our speakers. I would be remiss if I didn't give a special shout out to Amanda Altice. Amanda, you are just awesome. To our speakers, I mean, you just brought it. You just brought it. I don't know how else to describe it. You know, from Paula talking about the trees, don't turn away from each other, to Sonia, Keisha, Andy talking about change, Peter talking about self-reflection, David, Professor Anthony talking about our democracy being too fragile and how the movement regenerates itself, to Reverend Deborah telling us to recalibrate our conscious. I mean, if you don't get it after today, then check in with somebody to help you figure out what we're talking about today. I mean, this has just been awesome, just awesome. Thank you all so, so much. And you know, for me, there's nothing that I can add to what has been said. Thank you so much. The one thing that I've been reflecting on is when I reflect on King and his legacy, is that no matter how insurmountable, you know, your challenges seem, we have to always keep moving forward. You have to find a way to move forward. And I hope that we all just not only reflect on King today, but throughout the year. Let's just reflect on what his legacy means, what it meant back then and what it means today. So I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I really hope everyone enjoyed. I hope I haven't left anyone out. David and Jason, thank you so much. Thank you all. Hopefully we'll be out in the streets next year, but if not, we'll find a way to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thank you all.
We gotta pray. We gotta pray. We gotta pray. Pray for the world tonight. We gotta save Somebody save somebody tonight. Fire in the air, what the hell going on? Sirens everywhere, singing that street song. Violence everywhere, barely holding on. What the hell going on? Do you know who you are? Do you know who we are? We're extraordinary people, living an ordinary life. One extraordinary question. Gonna run or fight, so we gotta pray. Pray for the love tonight. Another day. Pray for another try. Smoke is in the sky. What the hell going on? Bullets gonna fly. High right from the gun. Trying not to cry. Barely holding on.